Welcome back. I've been working rather hard, physically speaking, so I've been tired and I didn't feel up to putting on another video. However, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, and I want to continue, obviously. I know I keep getting back to Canada because I think Canada is the canary in the coal mine. I think that, in fact, I know that our rights have been taken away from us. In 1981 was a new constitution. The man who wrote that constitution was a big fan of Mao Zedong and Fidel Castro. And when he decided when he became the leader of our country, Canada, he decided to write a constitution and get rid of what he called it's called the British North America Act. And at that time, the people of Canada had the same rights as the people of England. But the leader now, Pierre Trudeau is his name, he decided to get rid of the British North America Act. He's quite famous for his dislike of the monarchy. He used to do pirouettes behind the Queen when she turned her back on him, and the Queen wasn't impressed. And I don't blame her either. She has a responsibility to the Commonwealth countries, and she takes it very seriously. And she didn't trust Pierre Trudeau. In fact, when the British North America Act came to Canada and was signed off, Mr. Trudeau replaced it with the Constitution of Canada, which he himself had written. And this Constitution has a thing called the notwithstanding clause throughout it. And no one seemed to, at the time, it was very confusing, like, what does this notwithstanding clause mean? What does it mean? And in the end, it answered with a shrug. Well, it's for you to figure out. Well, I don't understand this. Anyway, it was required, just in case any other countries in the world get a new constitution, and you might, because of the globalism movement. In Canada, what was required is all of the premiers, we have 12 provinces. At that time, there's now 13. It's actually 10 and 2 territories. It doesn't matter. It's complicated. Forget about it. Except that everybody had to sign. The Crown made it specific that if this constitution is going to be valid in this country, all of the premiers, all of the provinces, the territories, have to agree to it. They did not. Where I'm working now in British Columbia, the premier at that time was Van der Zalm, was his last name. He couldn't understand the first thing about the Constitution of Canada, but he was not alone. Many people could not understand it. There is a section in it called Section 35, which deals with the First Nations people. And nobody understands what it means. In fact, when Pierre Trudeau was asked, what does this mean? He said, I don't know. It's for future generations to decide. Well, that's kind of stupid, when people have to sign on to a document that they don't understand. Why would anybody do it? So Mr. Trudeau is from a province called Quebec, which is was originally a colony of France, and then it became a part of Canada. And so the premier's name there, his name was René Lévesque. Bit of a chain smoker, but a good thinker, a critical thinker. The other provincial leaders, I shouldn't lump them all together, but I'm going to, because they were all followers. None of them were leaders. They did get to be the leader of the province, but none of them seemed to be able to think very well. They kind of got bamboozled into it, like, you must do it. Everyone else is doing it. You've got to do it too. Watch me, as Pierre Trudeau used to say a lot, watch me. But he was a big fan, as I said, of Mao Zedong and Fidel Castro, which are, at that time, they were the 2 greatest dictators in the world. Both of them executed an awful lot of people in their own country, Mao Zedong in particular. Anyway, let's get back to Canada. So when the Crown decided that the petition to change, to export, let's say, the Constitution of Canada from England to Canada, because before this time we had to apply to the House of Lords to make changes in it, and the House of Lords didn't, because England had existed for far longer than Canada had, they had a good history of the abuses that can happen. But Canada wanted to make its own abuses, which it has done. So they put a rider on it. If the people of Canada want the British North America Act back, they can make an application to the House of Lords, and their application will be heard. And if the people of Canada say, we don't like the Constitution we have, we'd like to have the British North America Act back, please, we would get it back. Now, René Lévesque, as I said, who was the Premier of Quebec, he decided he did not like this new Constitution. For one thing, all of the rights of Canadians got written down. It had been written before, but Mr. Trudeau wrote them down, and he called them the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, it sounded wonderful, like you had security of person, and the right to speak, and the rights of this, and rights of that, and rights of something else. However, he did not give them to the people. He took all of the rights of Canadians and he gave them to the judges of Canada, whom he had appointed. That's a good dictator's move. That's really good. I've been in the courtrooms of Canada many times, and there have been very few occasions where I've been permitted to speak. Judges look at me and they say, I cannot rely upon anything that you say or any document that you bring to show your innocence to the allegations made against you by the Crown. I'm dismissing your case. This has happened to me many times. And it continues to this day, even in small claims court, which they say is where you have all these you're likely to win. In small claims court, the lawyer, whose name is Shelley Chapalski, she lied to the judge. She kept flicking her hair and winking and blinking, and the judge couldn't stop smiling at her. He just loved her, but it was very clear. My lawyer friend was behind me. He was coaching me, really, that they had colluded against me. They had conspired against me. My lawyer friend said, they have already discussed this case before you got here. Even in criminal court Canada, the judges conspire against the defendant. In most countries, free countries, if you've been arrested and charged, you are innocent until proven guilty. But in Canada, you are guilty until proven innocent. Now that may sound stupid, like I made it up. A man named Terry LaLiberté, who was a very famous lawyer in this province, now retired, he said this as well. He said, in Canada, the presumption is guilt until you're proven innocent. And that has happened to me on many occasions. That's why even in small claims court, the judge threw my case out. So I pointed out to the judge that the woman lawyer had lied to him. So he asked her a hard question, and she would not answer him. Then he looked down at the desk, he rubbed his head like, oh my God, I've got to let this guy know that I have spoken to her before. Either they met in person and had breakfast together, because it's an early morning hearing, or they spoke on the phone, or at night perhaps they had dinner together. Who knows? You won't find this out in Canada. These things are a secret. We have secret proceedings, secret trials. If you try to get a transcript of the trial, it is forbidden. I bet you didn't know that. In the Federal Court of Canada, the people cannot see it. And I've been there many times. I have been shouted down by judges. I have been laughed at by judges. That's not an exaggeration. So I've had two lawyers that I hired. Both of them were formerly Vancouver City police officers. They got the same treatment I did. And they are members of the bar. They were so exasperated that veins stuck out on their necks. They're popping. I thought they're going to explode. I'm sitting right beside the lawyer, of course. I'm looking up and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna blow up. But the judiciary of Canada does that to Canadians. They like to destroy us. And I'm using this word intentionally because I believe it is true. They're actually guilty of hate crimes, which Ann Coulter has been called a hate monger in Canada. And she came here from America to speak, thinking that Canada had freedom of speech. She was warned, a man in Canada and in the province of Ontario, he warned her that if she speaks in Canada, she will be arrested and imprisoned for hate crimes. Isn't that a good one? She got back on the plane at Toronto Airport and flew back into the United States, where she can speak. In Canada, you may not speak. So the judges, and there's a judge in Alberta, a woman judge, who called the people, us, me, and I'm self-represented, riffraff. And she says, I live in an ivory tower. But she hates people who are self-represented, who speak the truth, who try to defend themselves to the allegations made against them by the Crown. Who's the Crown? Pierre Elliott Trudeau became the crown. He tried to get the crown removed, but it didn't work. The head of the government of Canada is still the crown. It's Queen Elizabeth II. And she clearly did not like Mr. Trudeau. That's why they put a rider on our Constitution. If the people of Canada want it back, they may make application and it will be returned to them. The province of Quebec, René Lévesque, chain smoker, would not sign it. He was suspicious. He could smell a rat. The rest of the provincial premiers were all waiting to get drunk on wine or something, because I don't know if you know how this works in Canada. We have this restaurant in Parliament where they get swizzled. They eat, they drink. Pretty soon they're talking about fishing or porn. Oh, I didn't mean to say porn. I didn't mean to say porn. My crew is, I'm reading their, they said corn, it's supposed to say corn on the cob, not porn. I don't know what happened there. You guys, straighten out. I'm not telling you, this is, how many times have I warned you? Stop it. Do it right. You know how to spell. You're a couple of crazy cats. Anyway, let's get back to the Queen of England. She's got a kind of a burning spot for this. Something on the back burner she's always kept on her mind, because it became clear when Justin Trudeau, the son of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, went to England to meet the Queen. He's quite a tall fellow. I think he's 6'2". The Queen stood up and faced him, and she's smiling at him like, you know, you're the new Prime Minister of Canada. Let's have a little chin wag. He didn't really bow to her. He put his head down, because he's quite a bit taller than her, and he says, the last time you saw me, Your Majesty, I was quite a bit smaller. As in, he was just a child. Right? So she looked away from him. She says, yes, that's extraordinary. The British are masters of the language. They are the masters of the language. Mr. Trudeau didn't understand what she had just said. I've been in England. I lived in England for 3 months once. Now, there's an education. If you want to learn how to speak English or understand the language, go to England for a little while. They'll show you. They laugh about the way I speak a little bit. You know, they laugh about it. It's they call it provincial. But being the masters of the language, as the Queen is, he did the wrong thing. Mr. Trudeau did absolutely the wrong thing. He spoke about himself. He is a narcissist, in my opinion. He's a narcissist, and he showed it to her right away. She goes, yes, that's extraordinary. Twaddle on about yourself, would you? Twaddle on, keep going. You know, so she's got her handbag. I don't know if you know this signal. If she doesn't put the handbag down, her handlers say, that means to the handlers, get me out of here. Since obviously he didn't have anything interesting to say and he wanted to speak about himself first. Usually you wouldn't do that. When you're meeting Her Royal Highness, you know, there's a certain protocol. Obviously he was not coached, or he didn't listen. The protocol is this. We are subjects of the crown. Queen Elizabeth II, she smiled at him very, very friendly, very openly, in fact. But then the door closed when he talked about himself. He's representing the people of Canada. He's before Her Royal Highness, who is the head of governments, many around the world, in fact. And she is there to greet and to make a new relationship. But he did the wrong thing. Maybe not the most wrong of all things. At least he didn't do a pirouette, making fun of her as his father did. However, she didn't trust him. So there you go. Now we have a government of Canada where we're trying to negotiate a new NAFTA agreement. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, says that women must be equally represented in the agreement, 50-50 right down the line, captains of industry, you know, and all those things. Just to point out to you, Pierre Trudeau's son, Justin Trudeau, does not have a job. His wife doesn't have a job. Not that I'm aware of. I never see her do anything other than she's always got the kids. Nice people. Nice looking kids. But they don't work. The only job Justin Trudeau had of any account, he claimed to be, he was a bouncer in a bar here in Vancouver, in fact. I've been at his house. He owns a townhouse here. Vancouver, British Columbia. I've been in it once. And the bouncer in the bar is the king of the sucker punch, because the bouncer in the bar watches somebody have a little too many and gets a little too loud, and they go over and try to, if they get a little rough, it's easy to beat up somebody who's drunk, because as they say, it's like a drunk man. It's like shooting pool with a rope. Can't hit anything. It's stupid. The only people you'd have a problem with are probably the Russians, because they can outdrink anyone. Hello, Russia. It's a very interesting time. Let me tell you, I have one Russian acquaintance. We're not exactly friends. I did try to keep up with them drinking beer once, and I soon failed. I don't know how Russians can hold so much alcohol, but they certainly can, and I never recommend trying to keep up with them. Never. So, let's get back to the fascism that's taken over Canada. The judicial system, Beverly Ann McLaughlin, who was the top woman judge, she was there for quite a few years. She had a child, she had a boy, but she didn't raise him. Her husband did, until he died. And the little boy was 8 years old when his father died. But the parenting thing, as she said, she just did something else. I don't know. It'd be nice to know. It'd be nice to understand. I'd like to see him. I'd like to talk to him, in fact. It'd be nice. Maybe Peter Mansbridge. Give us a sense, if you will. What does this all mean? Anyway, I don't like these kind of things, as you can probably get it. And I've been in the courtrooms of Canada many times. I have 4 cases outstanding. They have not been heard. I have not been permitted to speak or provide any documents. In the Federal Court of Canada, I've been there 3 times. I was not allowed to speak or provide any documents. 3 times. I had to pay a $3,550 court fee for the Federal Court of Canada. It was immediate payment, no installments, immediate payment. The judge sent bailiffs to my house to collect the money. The judge did. I didn't have it. So the bailiffs, there's 2 of them, great big guys, yard apes. They gave me some information. We're standing in the driveway, a place I rented. They're looking at my car, and they said, you may not be aware of this, but the judge ordered you to pay it on that day. Before you left the courtroom, you walked out of the courtroom. That's contempt of court. I said, oh, I didn't know that. He said, you, technically speaking, you can be jailed right now. Oh. So they left, after shaking me down, as the Crown likes to do to Canadians. I think the Queen of England would like it to be different, but the government of Canada likes to call itself the Crown to avoid, they're hiding behind the Queen's skirt. They don't want to peek around the corner and say, oh, hey, I'm the one that's causing you the pain. So anyway, this is, when they left, I have a lawyer friend, as I've said, and I phoned him. I told him what happened to me. He said, oh my God. He says, he says, go downtown to a company called Deloitte & Touche. He says, they're on Burrard Street. You make an application for bankruptcy, you got to do it today. You will be in jail. They will handcuff you. And if you get a little mouthy with them, the cops will beat the shit out of you. So I do this. I get on the SkyTrain. Here we have it, mass transit, and I went downtown. The people at Deloitte & Touche couldn't believe it. I said, what do you mean? I've never heard of such a thing. They're going on and on. But anyway, they agreed to do it because they phoned the lawyer for Canada Post, who I lost in Federal Court of Canada about. His name is Scott Dawson is his name. And I've made a complaint about his behavior, but nothing happens in Canada. We have a law society, but nothing happens here. Law society in Canada is Union Central. That's what it is. It protects the lawyers from their clients. Anyway, so what happened is, I get my meeting, and they had to confirm that yes, the police are coming because you haven't paid it. So I signed immediately, bankruptcy order. Now the police have a problem. They can't go past bankruptcy. They have to make an application. The Federal Court of Canada put in an application for $50,000. Believe me or not, $50,000. The Federal Court of Canada was so angry that I was seeking justice to protect myself from the abuses of the Crown, the Government of Canada. This is all true. My lawyer friend has helped me get this far, but he doesn't want to communicate with me anymore because he is getting monitored, as I am getting monitored by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and other agencies. I have had meetings with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They tap their pen on the table. They keep asking me question. They're writing. And I went to get all this writing. I'm going to give it to you at one point. They blocked it all out. It's called redaction. They blacked it out. So I couldn't read it. Whatever it is they made, these notes that they made. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police stop me at least once a month, sometimes more often than that. Shake me down on the side of the road, just to get you a little... See, what they're trying to do, the police in Canada do this. They bait you. They taunt you so that you will have a little reaction. And with that little reaction, a greater reaction is about to come. And this has happened to me. I've been at gunpoint. I've been arrested twice. I have been handcuffed. I have been jailed. They don't like it. The cops, and I have a complaint about the police right now. I have no response. Only they want a clarification. And then they phone you. The dirty tricks in Canada, the dirty tricks of phone calls. And I record my phone calls. And I've gone to court with recordings of the phone calls. And the judge looks at me and their eyes get big and they go, "You recorded your calls?" They will not let me play it. They will not let me refer to it. But if a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer showed up with recorded phone calls, the judge allows it. But for the people of Canada, the judge will not allow it. I got to shut down. I'm running at the end. I'm going to teach my my crew here how to spell corn with a C instead of a P. Everybody have a nice time. Toodly-doo. Bye-bye.